time. We do a lot of events, meetups, like basically, like before COVID or like during the COVID, we also do a lot of like webinars as well. So this is after second wave, like we do the like offline meetups here. Thank you for making yourself available today. Welcome to 7 Peaks. So yeah, if you wanna catch up more of our activities or upcoming events, you can also feel free to like follow our social medias, Facebook and LinkedIn. We always share our case study, activities, and also what's happening in the 7 Peaks, and also the new, like job opportunities happening in the 7 Peaks, and also we share a lot of like knowledge and ideas, for you guys. Right, so we are work very hard and also party harder. Yes, we do. We love to do a lot of parties, activities. Yeah, this is some like moments from our previous like activities like Christmas party. We have the outgoing. We also dining outside. Like we gather around. So not only that, we also do like internal in-house activities a lot. We call that Friday activities, like twice a month. We do like internal Friday. As you see that we have beer tap as well. We call like a Friday bar, and also sometimes Fridays activities. Not only drinking, we also doing many things like playing the game, and also like we also do the. We have a lot of like groups. Like it depends on your interest. We have the e-sport groups. We have like PlayStation, Xbox group. We have the gymnastic, and someone who interested to do like outdoor things. Yeah, we try to encourage our people to have fun and connect each other, and not only like coding the whole day. We want people to talk and like enjoy their life. Yeah, so we did a lot of sports as well. We have other sports activities like we are doing as well, and we also eat hard. Yeah, we eat a lot. We have a free lunch every Thursday. Like it's like different cuisines and like different like tastes. We let our people to try, and also occasionally we also do some activities like kind of like a wine tasting. We also invite our wine specialists to come to the office, and also we have like massage like sessions. Like we invite like the companies to have like our people to have like a massage session for 15 or 30 minutes, and also wine tasting sessions. We did a lot of things. So we have a lot of activities. We people more like like active, and they are like extroverts. They're willing to share knowledge, ideas, like enjoy the time here. So if you guys interested to join to be part of the 7 Peaks software, currently we are looking for 6 position. This is urgently looking for. We are looking for .NET developer, senior role, and we are looking for Android developer who have a strong experience in Kotlin, and we also have a web like position like front end, senior front end React, senior front end Angular, and we also have full stack, and we have a mid-level front end. If you're interested, or if some of you or some of your friends are interested to join 7 Peaks software, they can check on our website 7peakssoftware.com/career, or they can also send their resume to jobs@7peakssoftware.com. You can also scan here. This is our upcoming like event page. Actually, you can also check on our website, and also if you follow on our social media, you will see all of our upcoming like activities. We have more meetups incoming, so feel free to check our website and try to register to grab your available seat. All right, so I would like to welcome our first speaker, Giorgio. Please give applause to him.
Thanks. Okay. Can I have me here? Thanks. This is the beautiful of the live streaming. Thanks. Okay. Welcome again. Today is 8 March. Best wishes to all the women. First of all. Second, to my wife and my daughter at home. This evening we are speaking about Cosmos DB from a developer point of view. I try to give to you a sort of developer guide that you can use to develop with the Cosmos DB into the Azure cloud. Okay, start from the beginning. Who I am. I started to work in IT from 2006. This is all my roles: developer, consultant, project manager, software engineer, and now in 7 Peaks I am the tech lead of the cloud solutions. Who are we? This is the cloud team. This is a few of the certification that we have both for the Azure than the AWS side. Okay, this is the agenda for this evening for you. I started to give an introduction about Cosmos DB. After, I will point you about how approach yourself, that I call first contact, to use Cosmos DB. After, we go a bit in deep of Cosmos DB, not so deep. And after, we have a final consideration about these descriptions. Okay, a preface. What is required? This is, I call, a short checklist to pass before to enter in this presentation. Okay, be a developer. What does it mean, or what I mean for be a developer? Analyze and consider everything before to start the code. Avoid to focus only on the code. And avoid to apply, okay, Cosmos DB is fashion, I will use it. No. This is something that in the usage of the NoSQL database and the big data sometimes is not very clearly, and can bring to huge disaster for your application. So start to think first. After, there is the NoSQL concept. Okay, SQL or SQL definition. SQL means structured query language. NoSQL is the not in of SQL. So it's something that is associated with the big data, because the big data don't have a fixed structure, are unstructured. And the data model is always a focus on what we call denormalization. In the SQL you normalize, so you divide into small pieces. Here we denormalize, we won't consider the whole piece of the data. Okay, let's start. What is Cosmos DB? It's a NoSQL database is a PaaS, is a platform as a service provided by Azure. It can be globally distributed with one click, honestly. You need to wait 20 minutes, but in one click. Of course, Azure need to prepare everything to distribute, but you click on once and wait 20 minutes to distribute. And after, there is two possible execution model, that is provisioned and serverless, or automatic autoscale. I will enter in the detail in the Cosmos DB in deep. Okay, this is the bird view of Cosmos DB. First of all, you need a database account. Why? Because with Cosmos DB, without a database account, you cannot create a database. And into one database account, you can group multiple databases. The database, so the database account is a logical container of your database. The database is the base where the database is the base of the data, ignoble word trick, but I cannot find any other words. Sorry for that. Where your data are stored. This is another logical group of your data. This is the fashion items, because the container is the schema where your data are stored. What scale globally, why you need to wait 20 minutes, is this, for the replication of that. Okay, this is the full view of Cosmos DB, or the element of the Cosmos DB. We have our logical containers here. This is the containers. This is your data. According to the API that now I going to explain to you, you have different kind of representation. Think that this is your table. SQL speaking. This is your table. This is your row. This other option or feature that the Cosmos DB give to you. Conflicts and merge procedure is the conflicts is automatically managed by Cosmos DB. You can type the option custom, and you need to say, sorry, when there is some conflicts, please apply this procedure, this merge procedure. Cosmos DB is designed to globally scale. So think that someone in the same moment add a new row, a new items to the container, there is to manage the needs to manage the conflicts. Trigger, storage procedure, and user-defined functions is something that should be not new for the SQL user. The user-defined function is a customization of the one Azure function that you need to run for certain kind of events. Okay, this is the API description. Cosmos DB have 5 API. Core or SQL API. That is remember here SQL they call core now. Before was called SQL. Because they have a structure of a SQL, but the data is NoSQL. It's structured as NoSQL. Indeed, I specify follow the SQL syntax. That's all. Finish. MongoDB API, that is the representation of the document model for the NoSQL database. Cassandra API, that is the multi-key values model. And the Gremlin API, that is the graph model. Now, who is expert or have an experience about the NoSQL database can understand what is the difference between a graph, between a model, and what is the Cassandra multi-key API, multi-key model, sorry. Okay, start from the first one, that is the easier one, graph. Anyone from the university remember what is a graph? A graph is something, is a model, mathematical model, based on two simple objects, edge or nodes and arch. The arch can be bidirectional or unidirectional. So Alice speak with Bob because you have Alice have arch with Bob. MongoDB. Everyone know what is MongoDB? Okay, fantastic. MongoDB have a document model. What is a document? Is a document. Is practically is the representation of the data as a document that you, a PDF that, or a book. I give always the example of a book. There is a chapter that can be single property, or there is the aggregation of complex property. Cassandra with the multi-key value. Key value is a key value. The value in Cassandra can be a recursive vision of the key value. So in Cassandra you have key, you have a column that can contain only one value, or a column that is called column family that store inside another sequence of key values. This is pretty useful for the map, the many-to-many relationship. In Cassandra is very easy, have a sort of limitation, but is very useful when you have a lot of many-to-many. There is an old project with Cassandra called TweetSandra that is the representation of Twitter based on Cassandra database. There is very interest because in this example, in this proof of concept, is explained how they normalize the SQL database that you can apply if you are the developer of Twitter. And Twitter use the Cosmos DB for one feature. Last but not the least is the storage table API. In the Azure storage account you have a feature, a service that is called storage table that is pretty similar to the key value model. Is the key value model, and now is included into the Cosmos DB. So for that reason, is honestly the SDK of Cosmos DB is very helpful respect to the old one that the storage table has. Okay, first contact. What we have to do what we want to do, avoiding what we don't want to do. It's clear, easy. Okay, how use and what is the possible checklist to use Cosmos DB? I need to use Cosmos DB for a migration from an existing NoSQL database that I have, for example, MongoDB. Yes, okay. If you already have this NoSQL DB and you want to migrate, done, finish. You already have the API. Otherwise, need to start to think. First question, do you have the data? Yes. Okay, check this data. What model or what API model of Cosmos can fit to those data? Need to understand if can go into the semi-structured model to use the core or the storage table API. Is fit for the document model that can go into the MongoDB API. Is the key value model, you use Cassandra API. And the graph model that you can go to use into the Gremlin. Cosmos DB give to you the API. Doesn't mean that behind there is the MongoDB, Cassandra or whatever. Give you the API that is the abstraction layer to exactly reproduce and use the Cosmos DB as this API describe. Example. The new entity framework core, or entity framework core, for the SQL, they support the SQL API or the core API of Cosmos DB. So, if you want to migrate your SQL structure into Cosmos DB, or you want to start the new project with the Cosmos DB, entity framework provide the support for the core API of Cosmos DB, and you don't need to change anything. Is the ORM library do what the ORM should be done, object relational mapping, with some kind of condition and limitation, but it's not the end of the world. It's pretty easy to manage the changes. Otherwise, we don't have the data, I don't have a possible structure of this data, choose the core API as default. Why? I answer to this question telling you or remember you when the SQL database born, or when the entity relation model and the SQL query born. Long time ago. Indeed, still now we are using a technology of SQL with the SQL language or the SQL Plus language that is more or less old of 20 years. Why that? Because now is not common, is not fashion, but is what allows to us to manage our data. So this is the reason why one of the most common choice and recommendation from Azure is use the core API, because in the core API you already have your huge background of SQL. You don't have so much issue in the interface or in the query, and you can use the only effort that you have to apply is denormalize your data. For that reason, before I asked about the denormalization. And what Azure suggests is write a POC, a proof of concept. Why? There is, I give you the explanation later. Okay, I want to start first. I confuse you about this, how choose the API, and I give you some examples. Okay, first of all, e-commerce, just to repeat a common example. In the product catalog, you start to choose the core API. Why? Because you can have semi-structured data. For the product, you have one ID, one unique code, one description. One user that sell this product, or multiple users that sell this product, and something other else. This is the something other else is the unstructured data. So, in this way, you can use the SQL syntax to query select star from product. No, don't do that, Cosmos. The thing that help you is about the core API is the filtering. I guess that everyone go to Lazada, Agoda, Shopee, or another e-commerce, choose another one. Please, before to drill and search into your detail, step out a bit. See on the left or on the top how many conditions, how many options you have to filter the data. Thinking this in terms of document model, I guess that is not good. Think about the graph, can be, but there is an overgeneration of property and arch. Give a multi-key column or model. The indexing can be the hard part. So, in Cosmos DB, you solve immediately. You choose the core API. You can use all the possible like, equal, not like, in, not in filtering that you have. Of course, I remember you is API, is not the structure of your data. Is not the structure of the model. You need to denormalize your product. Example. Product, ID, name, a code. Seller is the user that sell this product. If you normalize, you have two tables in the SQL. In the NoSQL, you have only one row. with all information about the seller, if the seller is only one, all information about the sellers, if there is one too many. As you can see, the entity or the domain change the structure, but the API to select the product is still the same. Okay, second example, order history, MongoDB or the table API. Why? Because one, there is no search. The order history is the order history. The document structure of the data, one order is one document, is pretty structured. There is the seller, there is the buyer, there is the items that you order. Inside each items there is the quantity, there is the description, the unit price, and so on. There is the direct access to the single item. I want the version of this order, the version number 3. You go there straight, no need to search. You can have the list at the beginning, and the list is pretty easy to realize. But when you want one order, you go straight. You have the ID of the order or the code of the order. You pull this order directly. OD1 complexity. Here, in the previous, there is a fighting to make this logdn. Recommendation engine, the Gremlin API or the Graph API. Why? Because when you provide or implement a system that should give you some suggestion, the suggestion works as our brain for idea association. More your tag you are using, more link you have with the matter, better is the recommendation, because I can go, for example, I like the chocolate cake, so chocolate cake. Okay, if you like the chocolate cake, you like the cake and the chocolate. I go to the chocolate. Chocolate you can have white or dark. I go to the dark. There is another arch that can be bring into the cake, or give me another sweet with the dark chocolate. You can see this is a simple graph path that now I'm building with the chocolate cake. Double layer chocolate cake, I remember. And the last one with the Cassandra is the web analytics. How many people use Google Analytics or have experience with Google Analytics? Okay. Facebook Pixel. Okay. Something other else, analytics. Wait a second. Okay. Season, you are not okay. Season analytics. Okay. Now you. Okay. This is a classical example for collect the data that come from the different source. I restrain to the source to only one, your website, for example, or one specific website. You have the ability to collect all the data that come from this journey into your website, classified by can be classified by session, browser, time, page, path of the page that you click, interval between the click, loading pages, and so on. This is this kind of key value data, because this is one key because you are yourself, about your session, maybe. There is all this chain that can be the value that you can collect and store into the Cassandra, in the Cosmos DB, using the Cassandra API. I'm sorry. Last one is the IoT system. Storage API. Fantastic. Why? I say store only, because in the IoT, the first thing that you have to do is store the data that you receive. Second, the minimum of the structured data. You have one ID, one partition key, and one timestamp. The rest is the data that come from your sensor, from your IoT input. And you need a huge space. Think about, okay, I give you an example about the storage of the data for the IoT. Weather forecast. The weather forecast have a continuous update of the data on the satellite level, on the atmosphere level, that there is several on the atmosphere, high, middle, and high, medium, and low, and there is the from terrain. Need to collect all this data somewhere and parse this data periodically. In that way, after the news of 1 o'clock of the lunch, you have one weather forecast. After 6 hours, after the news of the dinner, you have the forecast of tomorrow that maybe can change. More data you provide for the weather forecast, more accurate is your forecast. This data is around 20-50 gigabytes per 6 hours. Calculate, start to multiply per 24, you start to understand the amount of the data that you have, that you need to have to calculate exactly what is the weather of tomorrow. Okay, we enter in the Cosmos DB in deep, but not so deep. I don't stress too much. Okay, Cosmos DB have a concept that is called consistency level. The consistency levels are 5: strong, bounded, session, consistent, and eventual. Okay, what does it mean that? Means that Cosmos DB is built to scale automatically and can scale globally. So, into a multi-cluster architecture, you need to start to think about what is the level or what is the time that my data is spreaded across all the points. What I mean? Think that we choose strong. This means that you have the less latency to have the same data in Singapore, USA, Europe, example. And this is the latency is not second, is millisecond. You start to think about the possible method about that. Should be ring a bell. This millisecond of synchronization about, you have you need to think that you have 3 databases, Singapore, Europe, and USA, that is synced together in millisecond. In tenths of millisecond, where tenths is less than 2. So if you start to think about that, you can understand what is the strong consistency level. From here, you can downgrade across all the weaker consistency. The last one is the eventual consistency. This name is the first time that I read these names, I start to smile, because for me, eventual consistency. What does it mean, eventual? That sometimes in somewhere I have the same data that I have in Europe, and this is what really happened. If you think about a chat, for example, the eventual, if you have the eventual and you don't start in session, maybe you can have the order of the message not in the same way. I write a message, someone other else, Alice write a message, Bob write a message, and maybe Bob see first his message and later the Alice message. When the Alice write first, write before then Bob. If you think in SQL Word, this is impossible. This is something that doesn't work. But in Cosmos DB, with the eventual consistency, this happen. The recommendation of the Azure is choose the session one. This is more expensive, this is cheaper. Do you remember at the beginning when I say start to think? You need to start to think because you need to take a decision about which kind of consistency level you have to apply. I give you here the link of the public documentation, because in this link I appreciate that at the beginning wasn't in that way. There is to explain what is prefix and staleness session. There is an example with the musical notes, and honestly is a graphical representation of the meaning. Seeing that, you immediately understand what is the level of the consistency that is explained here. Of course, this is used for something that should be very strong across the world. For example, some financial data or some kind of FIFO model. Our chat is here on the session level. The consistent prefix and eventual is something other else that you can wait a bit of time, not a minute, okay? Less than a minute, to have the replication across the world. Of course, before you need to click and wait 20 minutes, but to have the replication, but at least after you don't need to wait 20 minutes to have the same data replicated in the zone that you selected. Okay, do you remember when I say that there is a severe execution model? Yes, tell me yes. Okay, Cosmos, how do you pay the Cosmos DB? Pecunia sonant here. Request units. Azure categorize the usage of the Cosmos DB using this artifact model. Model is better. The request unit that you consume is the amount of money that you need to give to me as Azure. The usage of the request unit is per second. So you are going to use the request unit per second. The number of the request unit is one document that have 1 kilobyte to be retrieved, more or less. So it's clear that the request unit depends about the document size. If you have one row of 1 terabyte, you pay enough request unit to retrieve 1 terabyte. the number of the property in the document. Think that you have one order with a cardinality of the tree of the JSON that is minimum odd and 3 or super exponential. You start to pay this dip of the tree. The operation that are performing, if you need to traverse a graph with 1000 nodes, means that you have to execute at least 2 n log the n operation, if I'm not wrong. Hopefully my professor not be angry for that. Yes. You need to pay for the consistency level and for your indexing policy. So, this is the dip until I stop here, because this is start to be huge to digest. Okay, so when I create a database account and a database, I need to think about the possible throughput of the request unit. You have two ways, dedicated or shared. Dedicated per database or container, or shared per database, because the database can have multiple containers. So you say, okay, 10 is shared, is fully dedicated for this database or for this container. 10 is shared across the database for all the containers that I have. The definition can be manual, per database or per container, or going out to scale, the serverless that I give to you. Define the maximum of the request unit per second to use. Okay, example, wait a second. Now, Giorgio, according what you say, so I need to choose one API model for Cosmos DB. Thanks for the example. Second, I need to choose the consistency level. Third, I need to choose the throughput for my request unit. Okay, this is the 3 points that you give to us. There is a lot, but the main 3. How I can define that to start my work? First, see your data model that you have and choose the right API model. Rule number 1. If you don't have that, you cannot define that, core API is the default. Second, write the POC. What is the POC? It's the proof of concept. Okay, now how write a POC? Primary school. Identify the most valuable feature. If you need to write an e-commerce, I guess that the login and logout is not your primary feature that you need to consider to using Cosmos DB. But the product catalog can be the first one. Develop these most valuable features that you identified. Start with a minimum of request unit per second, 400 or 100. Depends about the region that you choose. Okay, you develop this beautiful POC, maybe only the backend API. Test as a maniac. This is the key. Is maniac, not the test. Okay, business logic test. Everything, you need to test everything, any possible flow. Success and the wrong one, especially the wrong one. Performance testing. When you achieve these 2 points and you think to cover all the possible flows that you have, see the report, see the number against Cosmos DB also, cross the data and check if you choose well. Otherwise, go the point number 3. Start to increase this number. Okay, here can be hard. Why? You can say to me, Giorgio, I don't know all the possible behavior of my e-commerce or my new application. So how can this POC can help me? This list for the POC can help me. Help you in this way. You start with the minimum, point number one, you need to go with the greedy policy. You start with the less one, and you start to increase just a bit. Avoid to have choose the maximum and come back. It's not convenient for the cost efficiency of the one of the pillar of the cost efficiency for Azure. Sorry, avoid the greedy policy. I'm sorry. If you need to scale so much time the request unit per second for your test, means two things. One, you are testing the wrong one. Because if you increase a lot the request unit, it means that you choose in the wrong way the point number one. Second, your model or your most valuable feature that you are identified are wrong. Yes, seems like physics that start to study the dark matter, but it's like that. Because you don't know the amount of your data, you don't know your data, the reality of your data. You need to create enough tests to allow you to suppose and assume some condition where you will base your application. For example, I have a lot of many-to-many relation. Need to denormalize this many-to-many application relation. I'm sorry. In the NoSQL, the many-to-many relationship is like a beast or a demon, because you need two possible tables that have cross-reference. Before I give you one example of the Cassandra API that is called Tweetsandra, but this give you a generic example of the swim line, what we call swim line. The line of the post that you have on Twitter, the line of the post that you have on Facebook, and the spread of publish in public, from every user. So this post belongs to many users, and many users can see this post. So you can start to understand the cardinality of the complexity that you need to have. Honestly, there is no an exact science for that, and for this reason we have a lot of black hole in our scientific knowledge. The only thing that can save you is this point. If you don't identify what is your core feature, you don't test very well your core feature, you risk to re-engineer your application when you reach a certain kind of limit. You can go by example, okay, but the example cover yourself until a line. You need to cross this line alone. Performance and integration testing or business logic testing is what be integration if you have the microservice. This is the two main factors that you need to consider. At least this, if you can enlarge, okay, good. Okay, I give you the example with the product catalog. So Giorgio, okay. Start with 400, via. Indeed, here. Define the main category of products. This is one possible valuable feature that I can have in my product catalog. Insert an average of 50 products per category. Test product number 1, test product number 2, test product number 3, and so on. A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Randomly generate the number, the name is better is. Create the model of usage of your catalog. Is the model. I don't know, if in the university you study modeling or system model, this is exactly what I mean. You need to think how you drive the user to use your filter, your option. So it's something that you need to study before without touch the code. If you don't have that, SQL database now immediately. Test on focus. Search the product by category, name, description, price, and so on. Now, start to scale the user. 1, 10, 100, 250, 500. Check what's happening with this limit of the request unit per second. See the result. See the result in the output of the Cosmos DB, or you can use the Synapse link to check your data, your usage, and check the output of your throughput of your data. So, is a pretty okay, can seems like a pretty unfair, but with the NoSQL database, this is what you have, because the NoSQL database is born with the big data that is unstructured. You don't know what you have, and why now the SQL is still in play in the business, because in the SQL you know what you have, you can control. In the NoSQL you cannot control. You can have or you cannot. So test, test, test. Model of your usage. Company as Lazada, company as Agoda, company as Shopee, company as Facebook, company as Twitter. Do that every day. Not only for their business, but also for their business continuity. Think how many users have Facebook? Hey, you need to stop to give me a tapestry. You need to give me an audience, okay? Otherwise I speak with the wall, okay? Oh, this is the trick that give me our beautiful responsible. We say that Facebook have a lot of users. There is a leak, or there is an unwanted behavior by some users. You should be, if you have these beautiful tools, you see immediately a spike. And start to think like that. What is the hole in my model? There is before, when we don't have the 686 CPU, people start to think about that in terms of math. In terms of math, this became easy to understand. And this is why there are the requests from the developer to remember what you learn into the university studies. Because traverse a graph in a polynomial or logarithmic time is not easy. Render a matrix is not in ODN or O the n per m time and speed, It's not easy. This concept, now we are so fast, our performance and our hardware is so fast that I can do select star from product and have the response in second or millisecond. Here you need to start that this data is gigabyte. So when you have one row of the SQL is kind of megabyte of data, here can be a gigabyte of data. I know that this kind of concept can be bored, it can be tedious, but when you start to enter in this discussion, you need to start to think. And the most of the time, if we can say, okay, 8 hours is the time to do that, you spend 4 hours here, you spend another 2 hours here, and maybe you need to spend the rest of the day to see the result and think about the result to prepare the work for tomorrow, because you need to spend another 4 hours tomorrow to refine your model and spend less request unit. Okay, keep this short. This is the last slide. Okay, migration to cloud. Consider what you have. I want to use my Cosmos DB. Fantastic. I have a database like MongoDB that I need to migrate. Yes, done, finish, end of the game. Good. Second, plan the API according the data model that you have or you will have, taking consideration all the possible deviation of this API. Think about the usage of this data, how you search, how you insert, how you update, how you delete, hopefully no. Take in serious consideration the model of experiment, so go as a POC. And decide basing on the experiment. Risk number 1, the model doesn't fit the reality. Fantastic, guys, we are here and our history of the science show this every time and in every matter, in every subject. Do you remember Newton, how discovered the gravity? Or how the penicillin is born? Seems like a casualty, but there is someone that see this casualty and try to abstract this casualty into a model. Risk number 2, monitoring the production to predict the possible change. How many times the privacy of Facebook change? Risk number 3, rewrite the model or the POC because it's not flexible enough. You perform only the product catalog. I cannot perform the login. Why? Because we identify that the login is not a most valuable feature. Questions? Fantastic, I like these questions. This. Yes, please. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, thank you. On the first couple of slides you mentioned about the merge procedure, and
yeah, wait. Let me get back. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, like, what happens if you don't have a merge procedure? Like,
Okay.
Is there some kind of UI notification about that? Or?
Okay. There is a default conflict management. Apply it. What is the default conflict management? The last one that write this record win. Easy. If there are 3 or 4 concurrent users, the last one win. Okay, like me and you. Yes. Like me and you that try to write on the board. The last one that write, we have the result of the last one.
And like, if you don't want that behavior, you can kind of customize that.
Yes. Do you mean this table API or this?
When you mentioned about the table IP.
Okay.
Table API. Like, is that something separate from the SQL table?
Yes. The storage table API. The storage table is a service into a storage account of Azure. When you create a storage account of Azure, you have the storage table, storage queue, the Azure file sharing, and the container. The storage table is the first approach of Azure to represent the data in key value model. Okay, so for that reason, is grouped now into the. It can be used the same into Cosmos DB.
You mentioned on like the request unit slide that you had quite a few different factors on there. What would you say is the most expensive of the points that you mentioned? Like what's the one that you should kind of be most concerned with?
Okay, one of the most expensive that you can see immediately is the consistency level.
Right.
Okay, because if you don't need to scale the data globally, it's clear that you can lower down your consistency level. Second is these two. If I need to provide a kind of list or priority, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Why? Because, okay, consistency level. Second, the document size and the number of the property. The number of the property that you need to retrieve for product catalog. Okay, I come back always on the same example. Product catalog. The property that you need to retrieve for the first search is ID or code of the product. Product name, maybe the description, and the price. Calculate how much this is EV for the number of the product that you have in the first page. Second is the indexing policy here. So I don't remember exactly the name of my product. If you translate this in a SQL word, this is like a full text search. Perform a kind of full text search in Cosmos DB is not so good for your request unit, because you need to examine all the elements that you have. And after the operation that is should be performed over there is clear. For example, for the absurd case, the search on the product catalog is more expensive than retrieve one order in your order history. Why? Because you don't need to scan one. You go straight to this order, and you already know the size of the document. So you pay according the document that you are going to retrieve. Of course, that during the evolution of your app platform, if this document size became smaller or bigger, you need to pay less or more. But you can easily calculate. Okay, you can easily calculate that.
Consistency, is that done on a per request basis, or is that something that you need to set up ahead of time?
Ahead of time. You need to define before, at the beginning. And when you click, the replication is always 20 minutes.
For the RUs per second.
Mm-hmm. Here? Or this?
Typically, yeah, just in general. Like,
Okay.
what are you looking at? Like, for example, say for a really small website, for a large website, for like an enterprise website. What kind of numbers are you looking at?
This is your answer.
Right.
Start for the minimum, and you start to go on.
So for €400.
Yes, in my account, 400 is the minimum. Yep. Maybe you are lucky. You have some discount. You can start from 100.
That's all my questions.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hi. My question is the following. So you talked a lot about POCs and testing and everything. So the question is there a way to deploy Cosmos DB locally and to run all the basic POCs first before deploying it in the cloud and kind of playing with the consistency levels and see the pricing?
I waited this question. I was waiting this question. Okay. This morning, this guy, we are preparing the meetup of now, and he sent me an image. If you don't like the good architecture, you start to pay the bad architecture. What I mean? If you start to work in log, I understand why you want deploy or define in local the POC. I agree. Unfortunately, the local is different from the infrastructure that Cosmos DB have on Azure. So, especially for the POC, it's like, I give you an example. I hope that this helps you. You run a container on your machine. Every container, for example, of your application. When you move in the cloud, you need to consider CPU and memory. I give you my application in local works in 5 minutes. In the cloud is half hour. Why? Because in your local forgot to minus CPU 0.5 minus memory equal that. After, maybe your local have more or less the same time. It's never equal. Because your hardware is different from the hardware and the virtualization that is applied on the cloud. So I recommend to you, check if the test works in local and deploy on the cloud. You don't need to keep this application on the cloud. If you deploy for this amount of time, that maybe is 1 hour, maximum 1 hour, the cost is always less than testing your local, assume something in your local, move in the cloud, see that all the tests became from green to red, and start to overthinking about what's happened over there. There is in the Cosmos DB, there is a functionality that is called notebook. You try to upload your set of data, your set of transformation of the experiment. You can use that to shorten the time of your test. After that, this is the checklist. This is the way. I'm sorry. Welcome. Okay, thank you very much for being here. Now there is I give only my I am available to contact on this beautiful link of the QR code of my business email. Pizza, Joseph. Yes, pizza. Okay, guys, we have our pizza. Thank you to be here. Thank you very much for the question and for listening to me.
Thank you, Giorgio.
แล้วก็ Custom Domain ค่ะแน่นอนเว็บไซต์โดยส่วนใหญ่นะคะก็อยากจะมีโดเมนเป็นของตัวเองเพื่อทำแบรนดิ้งหรือว่าการเข้าถึงอย่างง่ายให้กับ User นะคะสำหรับเซอร์วิสเนี้ยก็ provide การ config custom domain ไว้ให้เหมือนกันนะคะแล้วก็มีฟีเจอร์ในการ authentication นะคะโดย integrate กับเป็นเรียกว่าauthentication provider นะคะ Azure Active Directory Facebook Google นะคะแล้วก็ทำ backend route เนื่องจากว่าเรามีการ deploy ส่วนพาร์ทของ API ขึ้นไปบนเซอร์วิสนี้ด้วยเนี่ยเราก็สามารถset up backend route ตรงนี้ได้ด้วยนะคะแล้วก็ key feature อีกอย่างหนึ่งของเขาคือ generated staging version ไว้ให้เรา เวลาที่เรา create pull request ขึ้นไปบน GitHub ค่ะเขาจะสร้าง staging version ของเว็บไซต์ของโค้ดที่เรา deploy ค่ะขึ้นไปให้เราสามารถไปรีวิวดูได้ว่าโค้ดที่เรามีการอัปเดตมีการ deploy ขึ้นไปเนี่ยมันพร้อมใช้งานไหมมี error ไหมนะคะพอเราเช็คแล้วว่าทุกอย่าง work โอเคเราก็ merge เข้าไปที่target branch ของเรานะคะทีนี้ค่ะสำหรับ service นี้นะคะจะ support framework ทางฝั่ง front end ที่ค่อนข้างpopular ในฝั่ง front end นะคะไม่ว่าจะเป็น React Angular Vue หรือว่าจะเป็น framework ในการ create static website อย่างเช่น Gatsby นะคะตรงนี้ก็support เหมือนกันนะคะในส่วนของ API ภาษาที่ใช้เขียน Azure Function นะคะณตอนนี้เขาจะรองรับภาษาที่เป็น JavaScript TypeScript Python แล้วก็ C# นะคะต่อไปจะเป็นพาร์ทของการเดโมนะคะอันนี้จะเตรียมเดโมแบบเบสิกมาให้ชมกันนะคะสำหรับเดโมนะคะฝนเตรียมเว็บไซต์ที่เป็น no framework เป็น HTML ล้วนๆนะคะเอาไว้1โปรเจกต์แล้วก็เป็น React Framework 1โปรเจกต์นะคะแล้วก็จะเดโมในพาร์ทที่เรา integrate API เข้าไปด้วยนะคะค่ะในการ deploy โค้ดของเราจะใช้ extension ของ VS Code นะคะเราสามารถดาวน์โหลด extension ของ VS Code มาได้นะคะเขาจะprovide step ในการ deploy ไว้ให้เรานะคะซึ่งตรงนี้ฝนติดตั้ง extension ตัวนั้นไว้แล้วนะคะค่ะวิธีการนะคะคือเรามี source code ของเราบน GitHub repository นะคะอันนี้ฝนก็ใส่ initial code เอาไว้บน GitHub แล้วนะคะแล้วเราก็โคลนลงมาค่ะอันนี้ก็คือเป็นหน้าตาของ HTML เปล่าๆเลยนะคะมีข้อความ1ข้อความเท่านั้นโอเคเดี๋ยวเราจะมา deploy กันเลยอันนี้เนื่องจากว่าโค้ดของเราอะค่ะเป็นไฟล์ HTML นะคะเราก็เลือก Set up ในส่วนของที่เป็น Custom Framework นะคะเพราะว่าตัวโค้ดเนี่ยไม่มี Framework อะไร หลังจากที่เราfirst deploy ขึ้นไปบน static web app นะคะAzure เนี่ยจะ create GitHub action นะคะมาให้เราค่ะตรงนี้เขาก็ provide ในส่วนของ CI/CD นะคะ build แล้วก็ auto deploy code ขึ้นไปบน Azure function Azure static web app นะคะค่ะหลังจากที่รันปลายไลน์ทุกอย่างเสร็จนะคะคอนเทนต์ของเราก็จะ deploy ขึ้นไปบนนี้แล้วเดี๋ยวเราจะลองมาแก้ไขโค้ดกันนะคะจากตรงนี้เดี๋ยวจะ create บ้านใหม่นะคะแล้วก็จะทำการ commit code ขึ้นไปค่ะเมื่อเรา commit code ขึ้นไปแล้วเราก็ create pull request ขึ้นมานะคะโอเคค่ะก็จาก configuration ที่ Azure เขา create ไว้เมื่อเกิด pull request ขึ้นมาเมื่อเขาจับ action ได้ว่าเราเกิดcreate pull request เนี่ยก็จะไป trigger pipeline ให้ run นะคะ ซึ่งถ้าเราดูบน UI ของ Service เนี้ยมันจะมีตรง Staging Version ตรงนี้ไว้ให้เรานะคะหลังจากที่ Pipeline รันเสร็จเรียบร้อยแล้วเนี่ยก็จะขึ้นอยู่ตรง Staging Version ให้เราสามารถรีวิวโค้ดของเราได้นะคะค่ะอันนี้ก็เป็นโค้ดที่เป็นเวอร์ชัน staging ของเรานะคะถ้าเราเช็คทุกอย่างและโค้ดเราไม่ error frontend เราทำงานได้ปกติแล้วเราก็ merge โค้ดเข้าไปเลยนะคะค่ะตรงนี้ก็จะขึ้นว่าโค้ดของเราพร้อม merge แล้วเราก็ merge เข้าไปเลยYeah, to yes. Yes ค่ะหลังจากmerge code เข้าไปที่ target bar ของเราแล้วนะคะตัว staging เราก็ไม่ใช้แล้วเขาก็ auto delete ให้เราด้วยเลยโอเคเดี๋ยวเรามาเช็คผลลัพธ์กันนิดนึงว่ามาหรือยังโอเคYeah. Just copy the โอเคค่ะเดี๋ยวขออนุญาตไปเดี๋ยวรอให้มัน refresh นิดหนึ่งเนาะบางทีอาจจะมีแคชเดี๋ยวฝนขออนุญาตไปที่ตัวเดโมถัดไปที่ฝนเตรียมมาเลยค่ะตัวนี้จะเป็นโค้ดที่ใช้เฟรมเวิร์กของ React นะคะเหมือนกันค่ะก็คือโค้ดตัวนี้อยู่บนGitHub แล้วนะคะเราก็จะมา deploy โค้ดกัน ก็ตั้งชื่อ static web app นะคะแล้วก็เลือก framework ที่เราใช้นะคะตัวนี้ก็จะมี Angular React นะคะตัวนี้เราเลือกเป็น Reactก็เช่นเคยคือเมื่อเรา first deploy ขึ้นไปนะคะมันก็จะสร้างGitHub action บน repository ของเราให้
Okay, let me help you a bit.
Thank you.
Fetching packages. Fetching from the other side of the world to be available here. Fantastic. Linking. Okay. I try to help you to exit from the state. Oh, done. Wait a second. Is copying into. Okay, fantastic. Yes. This is why we need to add all the dependency of the word to make very short our CI/CD. Okay. Yarn upgrades. But honestly, it's very fast. I never expected this speed. Okay, try. He say finished upload. We hopefully that our cache is not so ugly. Can you try incognito mode? Oh yeah! Hello world! Yeah, thanks for the applause to Fon.
ค่ะอันนี้ก็น่าจะเป็นไอเดียสำหรับ developer นะคะที่ต้องการ create static web app นะคะแล้วก็ deploy ด้วยตัวเองอย่างง่ายๆนะคะแล้วก็ทำ CI/CD ด้วยเราไม่ต้องมานั่งdeploy เองนะคะทุกอย่างก็คือเมื่อเรา commit code ขึ้นไปบน GitHub แล้วก็จะ auto deploy ไปเลยนะคะฝนจะเหลืออีก section หนึ่งที่จะ integrate ตัว API เข้าไปนะคะ
Try to okay. Also, ABC is equal. It's not to be very strict. You are the master of the repository, so I don't need to apply your review your PR. Don't worry. Easy.
จะกำหนดเล้าของ API นะคะเป็น message โอเคเดี๋ยวเรามาลอง test run API กันก่อนเนาะ
Okay, easy to one feature that maybe is not transparent because this is about the code. In the middle of the time that Fon try to execute this and compile, I want to give you that pay attention over there. On the HTTP trigger, here now we put everyone and everything in common with anonymous, so you can do everything. You can see this example. This HTTP trigger here, you can customize. You can have the default authentication level, or you can customize. So it means that you have, if you have in your static website some page that should have a sort of authentication, basic authentication, for example, that is the simple one, or based on the GWT token, you can customize and apply your way. So only certain kind of user can see this message, for example, or can access to this piece of code. The simple concept of the login and have something private for some specific user that you can drive by the authentication. Please. Very easy, is declarative, no need to write a line of code. Inside the body, please, thank you. And this is all the HTML style. I learned that when I was 8 years old, so like 30 years ago. So is to understand how is new this technology. Why the script go at the end of the HTML? Wow. Especially because it's interpreted and need to have the full document already rendered, otherwise this exception, this function give you an exception, give an error. Sorry. Fetch API message. This is tons of experience to understand why the script go at the end. Not easy, not easy. Can rename vanilla a chocolate or something that we like more, no? Vanilla, JavaScript app, chocolate app, no. I'm kidding. Now you understand why she is the boss here. Okay. Yes, you need a proxy to redirect into your localhost on the 80 port. Okay, this is the fantastic. Yeah, good. we see static website. You don't change vanilla web, static web app. Don't worry. It's not a change. Don't worry. How should be run? Is a live programming, fantastic. And why you don't rename live programming this page? Need to be text, load from the API, okay. And there is the cache. Guys, honestly, this is the problem now. Okay, take this as opportunity. This is one of the most common issues that you can have to have the simple hello world here now for the simple static web app, and she don't attach the CDN, the CDN endpoint is the CDN of the storage account, okay, but you can attach another CDN. There is some simple configuration in the architecture that can bring you away times and times. This is a short kind of example, and you can calculate in minutes. Think that you have your website as multiple page or one single huge page, and you can scroll, for example, to show your product or your restaurant dish menu promotion, something like that. And the customer always say, I cannot see that. You go check, but all is done here. Why? Sometimes is the beautiful cache of the browser that no one refresh, and there is manage this. For example, these two guys here that help Fon work for the front end struggle themselves every time to think how this cannot happen. Sometimes I play with them. Yes, fantastic. Okay, next time we can transform this API and drop database API. Remember me that, please. Yes, because I enjoy to drop database that they build every day in dev. Git add, git commit. This is my commit push. How many apply the semantic branching, naming of branch for the GitHub? No, not you. Okay. Fon. Okay. Try to conclude that because we have the other thing to do. So, thank you very much. Can you show us the page? Yes, okay, fantastic. So you can, we can say there is the static web, we transform a vanilla static web app in a static web app with the help of the Azure function that print a simple message. And this is always done by the who approved the pull request in GitHub. That trigger an action that publish everything in the static web apps. Okay, do you want to say something else? No, why? You need to speak inside the microphone.
ค่ะก็โอเคก็ตรงนี้ก็จบ ขอจบเดโมของฝนตรงนี้นะคะก็อาจจะเป็นไอเดียง่ายๆสำหรับdeveloper ที่ต้องการจะสร้างเว็บแอปพลิเคชันสำหรับลูกค้าหรือสำหรับตัวเองที่เป็นเว็บแบบง่ายๆมี front end มี back end นะคะแล้วก็ deploy ขึ้นไปบน Azure นะคะตรงนี้ก็เป็นอีกเซอร์วิสหนึ่งที่ค่อนข้างใช้งานง่ายนะคะแล้วก็ one stop service ในตัวเดียวเลยค่ะก็ขอจบพรีเซนต์ตรงนี้นะคะขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you. Now, please. Okay. We stop the static web app. No problem. Don't worry. Don't worry. I can drop also the storage account. Okay. Wait. Wait. Yes. Prepare yourself, take your time. Okay, this is the beautiful of the live. Audio, video. Okay, good. Yes, please. One short question.
The benefit is that you can use the C# code on. Sorry. Oh, sorry. So, like, to summarize, the benefit is that you can use the C# programming language, make the static website on Azure. Is that the? Would that be the summarized version of what we're going with here?
I think the benefits of Azure Static Web App is the easiest service for our developer or any company that want to create a web application that have like a simple page and we want to like deploy it with the easiest way. No need to configure another like CDN or some like web application, so it might be difficultly. And with this, they provide CI/CD from the GitHub repository, go directly, automatically go to the Azure. So developer no need to like worry about when you gonna deploy, and it have staging version that you can check your code, your website, resolve what is happen after you try to deploy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question from me, please. How do you handle the rollback? Yeah, the rollback. So what you showed was automatic deployment according to if the lead of the team click on merged. So if there is a problem in production, how do you handle the rollback? Like, what is the strategy for it?
Sorry, I didn't research about it. Is it a good question? Yeah, sorry.
It's all right, no problem.
Do you have any word to say with this?
That okay, she is very easy. The pipeline is very easy. The rollback should be attached. Okay, if you have all green, all the tests performed, all green that stay in your commit hook or in something other else, if there is a sort of business or workflow mistakes and all is green, you cannot discover in the automation way. This is clear. So you need to roll back manually. Otherwise, what you can capture by the automation way and the workflow, because also here have a beautiful YAML file for the automation. If there is something that you can label as an error, you automatically can roll back from there. So is more or less is not that your versioning or your website come back. is something that you can manage into the pipeline of the deployment. Of course, more complex your static website is, difficult, and you need to think more about this check. For example, if we think about the check of the JavaScript, will be easy. If we have JavaScript, the function in C# that, like she say, all the format of the HTML, of course that the complexity is bigger, and we need to start to think about how to test that. It's always good find this at the beginning during your test, then deploy later. However, the staging environment that she create at the beginning helps a lot. Thanks. Sorry. Now, thank you very much for your question. Please.
My microphone. Okay, the idea of app services. That means the first thing when we're thinking about the app service, why do people love app services? The first thing about, for example, they have they have the concept of deployment slot. That means in one website you can have 1 slot, 2 slot, 3 slot, or 4 slots. The each slot, for example, like a production. The second slot is around, for example, like a staging or testing. And if you want to, we call swap between staging and production, you can do that. And also you can swap back. If you feel the production, it doesn't work. This one is feature. A lot of people love it. And the second one, why the app service is very popular? Because you can use even the web browser to do the configuration, or you can do integration with many kind of authentication. For example, like many organized, many enterprise companies, they use the Microsoft Windows 80. And after that, when they apply, for example, like a Microsoft OC365 or Microsoft 365, they also implement Azure Active Directory. That means enterprise love it because they can tie integration with their application with the identity management that organization already have it. And the one thing about the fields, for example, they will tie integrate with what we call the logic app. We call the app insights. The app insight allow us to see what happened inside the application, including if you have a relationship between the application and also other components. We also work with, for example, we call it like the app map, and also work with the line metric, also do, for example, like a testing. Let me go back to this one. And the reason, another one, for example, the reason why the app service is very popular, they also have a built-in like a backup, daily backup for the source code, also backup the service that tie integrate, for example, like a database server. Then they also have it. And for example, another one, they're very popular because, for example, if you want to deploy your own website and you want to use your custom domain name, the good thing about it, for sure, you need to pay for custom domain. But every website, if you want to have the very popular websites, you need to do the implementation of SSL. If your website is very simple, for example, like a worldwideweb.something.com, you can get the benefits of the SSL for free. You don't need to pay for the certification. And this one about a website. We call it app service. And beside it, when we think about the app service, the first thing we think about, we deploy the source code, we deploy the program, we deploy the code. And the second one, we can deploy the container, because the container is really got more popular. The people love the container. I believe 7Peak also do a lot of implementation on the container. That means with the whole function of app service, we have a choice. You can deploy the program under the framework, or also the wrapping everything in Docker file. And after that, you put Docker image into the app service. You can also do that. And the good thing about it, another good thing about it, about the tie integrated with the CI/CD pipeline. For example, like a native Microsoft, we call it Azure DevOps. And also another one that I want to show today is about GitHub Action. And also, if you want to have something else, for example, like a Jenkins, they can also work well with another CI/CD pipeline. Yeah. And let me start with this one. For example, this screen is about when you want to deploy the application by using the Azure portals. You have a choice. You can deploy the code, and you can deploy container. When you think about the container, for example, like very simple container, you can put everything, every function in a single container. You can do that. Or even you can, if you don't want to use the web browser, your Azure portal, you can use a command line. I think everyone loves command line. Yeah, very easy to work with. And you just deploy the location of the Docker registry. This can be the Docker Hub, the Microsoft Azure Container Registry, or even your private registry. You can also work with that. And another one, the good thing, if you don't want to work with a single container because your application get more complex and you feel very good with a Docker Compose file, you can apply the concept of multi-containers. You can also use this kind of concept. And also for this one, this is sample. If you are working with CLI, the command line, you can type the configuration file in a YAML file and put the file, the concept, and do the provisioning inside the app services. And for this one, is I put a screenshot at a deploy before the event. We can see what happened when we deploy our container and put inside the app service. I think if you love it, because for this one, I use the Azure portals. But anyway, when you do the logging, you can use the AC command log, and you can stream the live log into the console anyway. And another one about the persistent, because every time when we talk about the container is just only transient. That means they just start and they're gone. They don't leave anything. That's correct. It's the idea of container. And if we want to use the persistent, for example, like we want to keep the data inside and we can maintain the data. You can also work with, for example, like we can put the data inside the app service plan. The app service plan, that's under the first one. Even the good thing about the app service, you can do scale. You can do scale out. That means, for example, you have the first instance and do second instance, you can do cell load balancer. And after that, what happens if the file is writing in the local? They can cause you a problem because when the traffic go to the second one, they can see the first one. But for this one, with this one, the shared storage, they can put into shared storage. When you scale out your application, they can see the same data. And another one is still in preview, but you know, when you work with Microsoft Azure, a lot of things are previews. but you can do that. You can work on this. It is a good one if you can put the data inside the Microsoft Azure file. When you mentioned previously about Azure storage, inside Azure storage they have the blob storage, the file. The file is right now support SMB protocols and also NFS protocols. For this one, another one, if you're thinking about how we can put the persistent data from Azure portal, just go to Azure portals and they have, you can create the context into Azure storage. For files, during this time they have supported the two kinds of storage, even Azure file or Azure storage accounts, or Azure storage, we call the blob storage. But for full function, for read-write full function, the Azure file should be the best one. Yeah. And another one, I want to show this one. Because the good thing about the deployment slot, yeah. For example, when we start to work with the Git flow, normally we have, like when you mentioned about it, in the practice, it's correct. We have a master, we have another branch, and maybe we have the feature. Yep. And for example, this one, we set up master, staging, and for example, develop. And after that, for the first thing, we need to build everything. It's correct. We can write a pipeline and use, for example, like GitHub action in the pipeline. And after that, the outcome of the pipeline for container is the Docker file. It's correct. It's a Docker file. We call Docker image. And after that, we can put it to the Docker, the container registry. The Microsoft Azure service, we call the ACR, the Azure Container Registry. For example, we can put for the master one, we can put the staging, and we can put the version of developing. And after that, when combined with the feature of slot, the reason I put I talk about the slot because, for example, we can put we can pull the master into the main slot, and after that, we can pull the master into the staging slot or dev slot. And the main idea, because when we put about the main branch into the master slot, and we can do swap function. And that means when we pull inmate into the master slot, and after that, we can do swap into the production. And after that, for example, if something wrong, if you feel it's not safe anymore, you can do swap back, and that means that the production is still do make sense for the end customer. That's the reason why we use the idea of slot. And this one just only very simple, but I want to show another picture. This picture, it shows you the more idea. for the enterprise, or when start working with a big project, it's not just only 1 or 2 person. We think about, we think about the first thing, we can use the develop Visual Studio Code or any editors. And after that, we can work with the repo. For this sample, we can use the GitHub repo. And after that, we use the CI/CD pipeline. In this sample, we can, for example, we can use the GitHub action. And after that, maybe we can use GitHub action direct into the production subscription and also development subscription. But in this sample, we can use, for example, like a pipeline for the release management. That's a lot of people love the function of release management of Azure pipeline. And the reason I want to show you this picture, because the idea of this one, many times when I talk to the customer, I would recommend the customer in enterprise organization, you should have at least separate subscription into 2 subscription. But I don't know about the customer of your, because I heard previously, about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, mostly the customer have only 1 subscription. And after that, inside subscription, the customer have resource group and apply the RBAC for each resource group. That's not a good idea for during this time. But the hard part about developer, because every time developer want to try something new, what happened? Developer need to talk with the infrastructure person and get approval from infrastructure person. And sometimes infrastructure person, they don't know how to do that. They need to get advice from security person. And sometimes rather than just take around 20 minutes, sometimes it takes 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And sometimes get back with the, you cannot do it. But as of today, if it is possible, I would recommend at least when you start new customer, at least you should have production subscription, another one development subscription, at least. Because give the more flexible for developer team to try a lot of new service or try new things. And not all of them, all of those things will not impact to the production. For this one, for example, in development, in dev and test, we can separate by resource group, and inside resource group, we can separate the environment for do the testing. And after that, for the key, for the policy, for example, which SKU or which capacity, which area, which location, we can use the Microsoft Azure policy to do the control. For example, mostly the customer in Thailand, normally when we create a new service with Microsoft Azure, we usually deploy the service in Southeast Asia or East Asia. But sometimes it happens. For example, I also have this kind of sample. For example, the first thing, they create the application in the Southeast Asia. But by accidentally, they can create database server in East US. And what happened, you see it? The first thing you can learn it because the traffic is very bad. Yeah, because the long distance. And the second one, what happened? Because the cost is very high. Because every time when you do the query and all data that's out from the data center, you need to pay money. That's good. For this one, we can do the control, the policy. That means allow the developer to create everything just inside the 1 data center or 2 data center. That's one a good one. And another one about the keywords. I think everyone know about the keywords. That's one a really good one because we try to avoid to put the code, for example, a database connection string into the source code, into the parameter file. We should put everything into the keyword. And after that, in application, should get access and get the key or access key or a certification from the keyword and put into the program. It's rather than put sensitive data inside the coding or input everything in repos. That one very dangerous. And another one, I think that one is a very good one I want to show you. In the production, When the pipeline works, normally we go up pipeline and do the approvals. And when finish the approval, they will go into the production. And normally we just, if we don't think anything else, we can ship from staging direct into production directly, and everything happy. That's correct. But normally it's not happy. The problem always happen with the first day of production. That's correct. Even we do testing, all testing. That means if we can do it this way, rather than we put in production directly, we can put into staging, and after that we can do swap. If something wrong, at least we can do swap. It just maybe if you can try just only maybe in second. It's not about a recovery or run all the backup, recovery backup. It take time. And another one about Azure GitHub. The GitHub is a good family. I tell you frankly, I just started learning about the GitHub action just like 2 weeks before that. It was a good time. I think it feels like but previously I have some small experience on Microsoft Azure DevOps pipeline. But when think about the GitHub action, I feel like look like back into my young age and start learning Linux. The command is very good. I feel like yeah, this is a good one. That means that if you love, I think like many people ask me which one should be better from Microsoft, the Microsoft Azure DevOps pipeline or GitHub action. My good advice, you can lock your time just only half day, and after that you can learn it, you play it. If you love it, I think software can do everything. The person to tell you which one is better is yourself. If you love, like in Thai language we call Jorit. If we love it, we can enjoy it. I also believe it. The GitHub action is still a long way to run, and have a lot of good support from communities. Yep. And how we can put together? We have the GitHub action. We have app service. We have a Docker containers. We have the ACR. Azure Container Registry. We have a Node, we have the Express, we have the Cosmos DB. And for example, for this one, I just want to quick show about this. I have the GitHub accounts. You can use the free accounts, is correct. One thing I learned about the GitHub action, even the free accounts, you can do the parallel job in 20 parallel jobs. That's amazing for me. I also use this one for free accounts. If you have the enterprise account, that's okay. Don't worry. Yeah. And normally, I think you have experience with the GitHub action before. Yeah, it's good then. If someone else never touched the GitHub action before, like the reason I like it, look like they design everything in text format. I love it. And the first thing, they have they call the directories about the GitHub, and they have workflow. And inside workflow, we can put the format of the GitHub in YAML files. And let's see together and how it works. For example, like the first thing we need to put the event, how to trigger this workflow to run. We use the on and push. Every time when we push the code into the master branch, they start execute for this pipeline. And after that, set up all the environments. And when they see the job, what happened with the job? I use the machine we call run on the machine. They use the Ubuntu Linux. Yep. And after that, use the action to check out action from GitHub repo and to this machine. And after that, we can specific the version of node, and because this one the node.js, use like an npm install, and also use the unit test. For this one, we call the job, the build job. And the second one we call the the deploy job. Yep, deploy job. And we set dependency because normally we can have a one job, job 1, job 2, job 3. And if we put job 1, job 2, job 3, and they start the job in parallel. And the reason we need to put the need, the build. That means this task, this job will be executed, and we cannot execute until the build task is finished. That means like a dependency between the job flow. And I want to share this one. For example, for this one, we think about we can download the beside the builds, because in this pipeline we start to work with the infrastructure. Because when we do the CD, we cannot just only do the code the source code or just only program. We need to create infrastructure. I think depend on. For example, in this sample, we can use ARM template. We can define the ARM template, and after that, use the ARM template to create the infrastructure. For example, like a Cosmos DB, app services, or even Azure storage accounts. And after that, we can use the action Azure login and use the action CLI to use the group create and group for create group, and also create a resource group, and also to create the rest. That can work together. For this one, when you see this, it's what happened. It's just only the deploy the application in code style. I want to share you another one. This one is different, because today I want to talk about the containers. I created another repos. Yep. For this one, the sample ARM template. I want to show you the ARM template. The syntax of ARM template is this one. If you love ARM templates, you can use the ARM template. Like many customers use a Terraform. I think it should be okay. Don't worry, this one. Yeah, the ARM template. They would create the app service, and also create the app insights, and also create the Cosmos DB. But for this one, create under the API of MongoDB. And let I show you the GitHub workflow. Inside GitHub workflow a little bit different, because previously it's about the build the node application, and after that ship the node application in kind of coding. It's not the container. But this one is different. This one, when we build it, I want to show this one. Instead of build, normally when we have machine, correct, we can clone the source with the code, and we can use a Dockerfile. But this one, about the cool thing about this one, we don't build a Docker inmate into the agent builds. We build Docker inmate. We use this function of the Azure ACR, because the Azure Container Registry, it's not just only to keep Docker inmate. You can submit for this one. For example, you can log in, and after that, Docker build, and refer to Dockerfile. And after that, they can use the file and put into build into the ACR. That's one very helpful. And after that, in terms of deploy, we can set up the first connection. But I think that for this sample is maybe just only very simple script. Maybe not good enough, because the way they use it, they just fed the connection string from the configuration, and after that they use a function to substitution. For example, they have the template of the connection string, and they use the configuration, and after that they change the template into the new data. But in the real world, I think this one is very rely on infrastructure. But in the we should have something else. For example, we should have working for example, we call the mandate identity. That means we can trust between application and database. It one is clean. Developer never see the condition string. That's when your application will be very secure. Yeah. Yep, for this one. And after that, we can do the testing, and we can deploy the code. Let's go see together. For my question, if I want to do to work this kind of pipeline, for example, I go to this one, and I use my lab for this one. Okay. I'm not good in JavaScript. I just change very small ones. I change my layout and put 7 peak. Yep, and the commit. Okay. And I push the code. Put the code. And after that, I go back into my repo. Yep, this one. And after that, when you see the pipeline, the action start to build a pipeline. And inside the action, they have the 3 states for building the Docker image. And after that, put the Docker image into the deploy into, I think that the text is wrong. We deploy to app service, not the AKS. Yeah, okay. Yeah. We I will show you. I will show you how for this one when deploy this, for example, this one. Yeah, in the realized they put this one. Right? The name of this test. But anyway, when they with the real deployments, they use the app service, it not the ACR, the AKS. Yep. Okay, and after that, I show you this one. Go back to this one. Go back to the action, and see what happened with the action. You can see, check in detail of action. Do the ACR authentication and do a running job and find a running job. And after that, take a little bit time. And after that, our website should change from, just a second, from this one. Is my app service. My app service. Yeah. Should have 7 peak after this. This one, the application that's running. Let me go back into the buildings, the action, and see what happened in the action. Yes, still in the queues. And after that should be deployed into the app service, and after that do the run test. And my question, if I want to do really quick one, start from the sample code that I show you, create very simple CI/CD pipeline like it, and do basic authentication, and create the ARM template for us, and help us to create a Docker image or create a Docker file, and after that deploy into backend. If I want to do this flow, how can I do it? I don't do everything by myself. I use this my helper. My helper is called Azure DevOps. They call DevOps Starter. If you want to do something like that I show you, we call DevOps Starter. When you type into search bar, you just key DevOps Starter. And after that, you just click News. New. The good thing about it, they have you a choice to pick any language that you wanted. For example, if you want Node, and after that, pick up the framework. For example, use Express, and after that, we can add database server. For example, this one I use Cosmos DB, and after that, we can set the target that we want to deploy. For example, I use the web app for the containers. That's in the pipeline, they will help us to create a Docker file for us, and after that, they will create the ACR for us to keep out the Docker image file. If we go with this one, just a window app, they will just create the simple, just create the app service, but deploy in code it rather than container. Or if you want more about the Kubernetes, you can also pick up the Kubernetes, and after that they will create an ARM template for us and create everything for us. I just go for this one because today we talk about app service. And after that, just do the authentication with your GitHub. This can be free. And set the repo, for example, March 8. And they will check the name for us. It's a unique name. And I pick the location in Southeast Asia, for example. And after that, I set up my resource group name. And after that, pick up the location of my resource group and select the price here. I think the cheapest one when we want to deploy the container should be start with S1. I try to pick up the plan that's below that. Sometimes it happens because if the Docker image file is a little bit huge, when you deploy, they cannot allocate the memory. That means at least you should first try with the S1 first. If S1 is work, you can reduce plan and try to do another plan. If it's okay, it's okay. Yeah. And another one, we can create a Docker image, Docker registry, and also put into Docker registry, Southeast Asia, and create the MongoDB database and put into Southeast Asia. And after that, click OK. And just only this one, do review and create, and click review and create. And that's all. And after that, they will send the script and create the ARM template for us and create a sample repo in our GitHub. And after that, we can start to work on this. If you have never tried before for Azure DevOps Starter, I think it should be the quick one. You can start to work on this. And after that, you can clone and you can start to modify and do something else. I know everyone when start coding, the idea of hello world is very good because we can see end to end. That's correct. This one we can see end to end. And after that, we can start to learn about each action. For example, like approval, we can see the integrate with another system. At least we can see the working system first. And after that, when the job is sent, if you go to your GitHub repo, they will help to create the new GitHub repo for you, and also the pipeline, or also including infrastructure. Yep. And beside that, I expect this one to be completed for this one. Yeah, already completed. And let's see from my web. Normally it takes around, depend, for the app service it should be around 3 minutes or 5, should not more than 5 minutes. And I go for this one. And if you finish, you can see this kind of picture. In Microsoft Azure, they try to do the summarize the single view for us, but in the back end, they like the door of the Azure service. That means for this one, it's just only they combine between the GitHub and also the combine the back end of compute from Microsoft Azure. After this, we choose log maybe authentication with the GitHub accounts. And after that, we can see the big picture on how we can navigate for each service that created by Azure DevOps Starter. Me getting slow on my website. Should I re-authentication? You can make again. Okay. And when finished, you can see this one. They combine between the look and feels from the GitHub. Normally, you can go directly to GitHub. You don't worry. Yeah. And this one about the list of service that we are using. And if we go inside the resource group, Microsoft resource, Azure resource group. For example, for this one we just created. This one. They were starting to deploy the all service for you. And I will show this one because they already finished it for save every one time. They will create the app service, app insights, the Cosmos DB with the MongoDB API and also the ACR. And when we do pipeline, they also keep everything into the ACR. I go to the ACR and I go to repository and list all the image tag of a Docker image that also put inside for us. That's one. The reason I want to show you because I want to, if you want to work with the GitHub, Cosmos DB, or in app service or even container, this one you just take around maybe 5 minutes, and after that you can create end-to-end flow, and then you can start to learn more about it. If you have already long experience with the GitHub action, that's one very cool. The next thing you should find, for example, you should have a question, for example, how they know, how they can do the authentication. Is correct? How they trust this. They use the idea of, for example, like I want to show you this one. When they use the Azure login, for example, for this one, they call the service principles. For example, this one, they also create a service principle for us. This one. That one you can learn from the best practice, I think. So. At least you can see, oh, rather than we put everything into the user password or key, everything. That's one very good start. I think for my session, should be all of this. At least my recommendation, if you have time during weekend, or maybe tonight you can't sleep it, you can start to go with a DevOps starter and try just only 10 minutes, and after that delete it. Before I finish the starter, before I finish, I think the most important things about developer, when we use a starter, the first thing you need to go, when you finish, you really enjoy with this, you need to go with starter. And the best one you have to do it is about after you do the authentication, you have to do delete it. Yeah, that's why you save you money to do it. And when you do the delete it, the source code in the GitHub repo is still there. You just delete the service in Microsoft Azure, and that does mean you can learn the pipeline, how the GitHub action work and they do workings. And I also put in these slides. If you want to do more or to learn more about the container, they have step by step that you can work and play with this. This all from my side for today. I think it take a little bit time, and hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. I think if you have any question, just please.
It's me again.
Yeah, it's good. But please be kind to me. don't put a tough question.
How long does it typically take you to get up to speed with using like the YAML and like the GitHub connectors and all that kind of stuff?
I did it
from scratch. Like how long would it take like an average developer to kind of get up to speed with that?
I think for the get up to speed, the first thing, if you know exactly how the pipeline works, if you have this kind of experience, you understand how the pipeline works. The GitHub action is just another technology. For example, like when you do the pipeline, we need to do build and deploy. Inside build deploy, we need to check dependency and how each language works. If we familiar with this one and move to GitHub action, I think we need to learn, for example, like an action. The reason they call action because they have a lot of chunk of action that we can play with. We don't need to start with a custom action because they have a long list of action that we can play with, and I think this one can help us a lot to start into up to speed and to work and leverage this type of this kind of technology. And the good thing about the GitHub action, when I get hit with a problem, when I do the Googling or the searching, a lot of documentation is a lot of good thing for this. And it might summarize. If you have very good with the pipeline, you can apply the way of thinking into the GitHub action. That one very fast. If you're very new to GitHub action, I think after that, I think they had one website they call the GitHub Action Hero. They have the online learning. That's one very good one. This one. I would recommend this one. Yeah, this one. This one. GitHub Action Hero .now. And they had a kind of playground and also like a learning. When you put into the YAML file, they have like a visualization.
So it's more like a tutorial site, right?
Yeah, that's one really good one.
Okay. And I guess kind of similar to the last talk, like what about the rollback? Like if you need to roll back, like is that quite easy to do, or?
I think depend on, for example, like a workflow that I showed you previously. I think depend if you work with a container and you put a container inside the container, they have the version of container. And after that, depend when we deploy, depend on which one that we want to pick. For example, if we use the app services, then normally we just pick the latest from the container and put into staging, and after that we do swap. And that one should be best, because after that when you do rollback, it's very easy, just do swap. And if you use another compute system, for example, like a AKS or something else, when you have the container, when you do deploy, they have the versioning of the container. We can do like a function of AKS, because the AKS also have the concept of the rollout and rollbacks. I think they depend on. Yep. Thank you for the question.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and also, we would like to thanks Microsoft Azure for sponsor today's meetup, And also thank you, Fon, thank you, Giorgio, today meetups. So we're gonna show a quick survey. Could you kindly please scan? Just only a few minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes. It's a short survey. So the thing is that we always, value your feedback. If you want to share, like what good things, bad things, yeah, free to let us know. So we always prepare for the best for the future events. If you also have some of your ideas you would like to listen, you can also free to let us know. Yeah, we prefer all of the speakers, the topics, and also we invite more extender like guest speakers as well. All right. So thank you so much again. See you in the next meetups. Please keep in touch and follow our social medias and event page. All right. Thank you. Yes. Thank you.